Good morning. Good morning. We're going to go ahead and give everyone a couple of minutes to get in. All right. Well, welcome everyone to the Skills Kickstart on non-WMS count tasks. We have our uh, team just joining in here, and we'll go ahead and get started. So, my name is Nick Darnell. I am a customer enablement specialist here with Encompass Technologies. I've been with Encompass now for just over 4 years. Before being on the customer enablement team, I was on the implementation team, so helping with WMS and non-WMS customers going live on Encompass for the first time. So lots of experience there, and I'll go ahead and hand it off to Kelly to introduce herself.
Hey everyone, I'm Kelly. I am an implementation consultant at Encompass, helping drive those new implementations or migrations. I've been with Encompass for 4.5 years, mostly on our customer success team, working with our beverage producers, but excited to chat with you guys today about WMS, non-WMS count tasks.
Alrighty.
And we're going to jump into the agenda real quick. First, we're going to start with when to use those non-WMS count tasks, best practices, and then Nick is going to take it away and show us a demo on both how to do those count tasks and counts on the server as well as on a mobile device. And we're going to wrap it up with when are you ready for WMS versus if you're on non-WMS now, when is WMS going to be a good option for you? And then, of course, we'll have time at the end for questions. And then if you have any questions while we're going along, please feel free to throw those in the chat and we will jump on them as soon as we have time. So to start on when to use non-WMS count tasks. So the biggest one and the first one that comes to mind for a lot of people is doing a full inventory count. And that is you are counting every inventory item in your warehouse. These are the ones that we are doing a couple times a year, maybe once a year. These are the ones that are really, really big. We're counting everything. Our second use of non-WMS count tasks are the cycle counts. These are like biting off a little chunk of a count. We are maybe breaking it up by brand or supplier or product type. For our producers, maybe we're looking at raw materials one day and finished goods another day. These generally happen more frequently as kind of an in between to those full inventory counts. And last but not least, we have our unique product counts. And this is when we're counting just one SKU. So this is one package type of one type of inventory item. So we usually see this to shore up inventory. Maybe you've noticed the numbers in Encompass are not matching what you're seeing on the floor. We also see this for people that are maybe placing an order, especially of a SKU that has a long lead time. So maybe you're going in there and counting how much of that you have before you go and place that order with your vendor. Getting into these best practices, the big one that we are going to drill into a lot today is when you're counting, don't move anything that you're counting. So if you're doing a full inventory count, we want to do that on the weekend, or if you're not doing overnight operations, you can do it overnight, but that we really don't want to move anything. So that includes our purchases. We really don't want to receive anything in. We don't want, like, if you get a delivery, we know you don't always have a ton of control on when those show up. If you get a delivery, leave it on the dock if you can, receive it in when you're done doing that count. The next best practice we're going to talk about is don't do any load sheets. No loading pallets, unloading pallets, processing returns, if you can avoid it while you're doing your non-WMS count. And then last but not least, when you're counting, make sure you count all of your products. Dunnage is one that we see missed a lot. So keep that in mind when you're doing your count. Um, Big overarching theme is if you're moving something in Encompass, it can throw off the count that you're doing on your warehouse floor. So keep that in mind while you're doing operations on a day that you're counting. So now I'm going to hand it over to Nick to dive into that demo. And like I said, he is going to show you a example on the server and then also one on Encompass Mobile.
Big thanks, Kelly. So to get started here, I'm going to move over to our training site or that test site that I have, and you'll notice that I am not on my bin counts table. So the first thing I have to do here is navigate to that table. So I'm just going to go up to Universal Search, and I'm going to type in bin counts, and you'll notice that I have a couple of different options here. The big one for me, since I'm doing a non-WMS inventory count, is going to be that bin count tasks table. The bin count task table is where we have all tasks that are done in Encompass. This is going to be where your return bin counts are. So when we're reconciling those, that's going to be when we do full-on counts. You'll notice here we have a handful of non-WMS inventory counts that are being done, as well as some route count-ins. So when those routes are coming back in, this is why Kelly pointed out how important it is that we're not moving any sort of bin inventories around or not touching any sort of inventory elsewhere when we're doing these inventory counts because they're all located and housed in the same place. So the first thing I have to do is go ahead and generate some count tasks for both myself to go out and count, as well as maybe some members of my warehouse. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this Add Bin Count Task button. When I go ahead and grab that, it's going to take me to a search screen here. Now, this is similar to many other search screens that we have in Encompass, so we're going to be pretty familiar with these sort of filters here. But the big one here is this warning. So creating a bin count task without any filters may result in a larger reconciliation time. What that's doing is drawing attention to the fact that if I don't filter to any sort of specific product, if I'm not filtering to a cycle count, so I'm not targeting a specific product type or brand or supplier, then what ends up happening is I have a really, really large count task and I have to go and reconcile the entire thing for that count task. There's no way to divvy it up. Once that count task is made, it is made. You can then go and delete it and try again. But oftentimes we want to just make this as easy as possible for us. So we're going to go ahead and grab a very specific product SKU and type for this. We're going to pretend as if we were doing a cycle count on a particular supplier's set of products. We got a couple of shipments in recently. We feel like our inventory is not quite where it needs to be. And so I just want to go ahead and count that. So the first thing is I'm going to go ahead and put in that supplier. In this case here, it's going to be this Fever Tree supplier. I can get even more granular because we got several shipments in for Fever Tree, but I'm going to target specifically the NA beer product type. So I'm only going to be counting the supplier of Fever Tree and specifically their NA beer products. If they offer anything outside of NA beer, then what's going to happen is those are not going to be counted. I'm specifically counting Fever Tree and the NA beer. I can further target specific packages, so think of targeting things like 12 or 24 packs. If I had a specific brand or flavor that I wanted to count, the way that we have that set up in Encompass, I could target it there. Or this product name here is being very specific. So if, again, we're doing those one-off singular targeted counts, I can go ahead and target that specific product or SKU right there. Now, total count tasks. This is how many counts or how many tasks I want to generate. In this instance here, I'm going to leave one for myself who sits in the warehouse, even though I don't have a handheld, and the other is going to go out to my worker who's going to be working from the handheld to do that. If I had anybody else to assign it to, I could go ahead and assign it to that individual right here. But I'm going to draw attention right over here to this divide counts by total count tasks. So what this does is instead of creating two duplicate count tasks for me to then go and try to reconcile, this is going to split the total number of counts equal to the amount of count tasks that I want. So by toggling this, I'll get two unique bin count tasks, and we'll go ahead and take a look at that here shortly once we generate that. Once I'm happy with all of this information, I'm going to go ahead and click on this add bin count task, and it will generate those two count tasks for me. Now, when I open these up, we're going to get a list of all of those products and SKUs divided up here. When I look at these are all different products. So it's divided the total number of products underneath that supplier and that product type, and it's divided that in half into two separate counts so that I can divvy those up into two different individuals to make sure that we count that as quickly and as accurately as possible. I definitely don't want to be there all day trying to count one supplier and one product type. So if I'm sitting in the warehouse and I don't have a mobile device on me, and I don't have Encompass Mobile available to me, if I need to, I can go ahead and hit this enter count button here, and I can print directly from here by right clicking. And you probably won't be able to see my right click, but there's an option here to just print this web page out. So I can print this out here in my warehouse, grab this printout, and go out on the floor. If I don't have Wi-Fi out there, if I don't have good connection, I can do this as well. And I can just go take this out by paper and come back here and enter my count and reconciliation. In this instance, we'll pretend that that's the case. So I've gone and printed out that sheet of paper and turning around, and I will go ahead and put that in uh, as well.
All right. And we did have a question that came through the audience.
Perfect.
Our warehouse managers are often using their mobiles to do floor counts. Can they create bin count tasks in their handhelds with the same abilities, e.g., splitting products between multiple counts?
Great question. And we will get to that here shortly when we get to the mobile portion.
Awesome. Thanks.
Of course. So if I am reconciling by having this printout here on the um, computer side of things, on the server side, I have this option to fill the empty quantity box with 0. What this does is it means that I don't have to enter any of the 0 quantities. I just have to put in the quantities that have counts related to it. So in this instance here, we'll say that I've gone out. I'm going to go ahead and make my count here. And as I've gone through, I've already gone and marked this out on a sheet of paper. I've already taken that count out. Now, we're going to see a handful of things. One is I went out to count this Lieutenant Marg mix, and it had 26 in there, not the 27 we thought. So we're going to get that error here that we'll handle during that reconciliation process. When I hit save, I can go ahead and view my completed bin count tasks. And from here, you'll notice that the status of my bin count task itself is still assigned, but all of the individual counts here are marked as completed. From here, we will go ahead and move over to mobile. So give me just a moment as I stop sharing this and move over to my mobile device. All right, perfect. So I've pulled up my mobile device here. I'm going to go ahead and back out all the way to the beginning here. As we know, when we log into Encompass Mobile, we have those skittles that give us, based off those permissions, tells us where we need to go. For this case here, we're going to go ahead and log into the warehouse. And once I log into my warehouse here, it's going to present me with my options. Now, count tasks vary depending on the kind of warehouse I'm in. In this case, we need to make sure that we're in our non-WMS warehouse here. So that's going to be our Gehring location. Once I arrow into there, I'm going to go ahead and move over to this inventory count option here. So we're going to see 3 different counts here. I was previously counting earlier, and I just had 2 count tasks assigned to me. One that I just did on the server, and the other that I'm going to do from mobile. When I click on that bottom one, this is the task that I already completed on the server. And one thing you will notice is that because we're working from a mobile device, specifically though in the warehouse, there's not so much a delay. And so those values that I already counted are showing up here. This is because that count task has not been reconciled yet. Jumping into that middle one, this is going to be the count task that I need to go out and complete on my mobile device. So same principles apply. I go ahead and I enter in the counts for what I am physically counting out on the floor. This is going to be everything that we're counting. This is that dunnage. This is where maybe they're sitting in the return bin. They haven't been placed or moved back over to our return bin just yet. Any and all counts of all products for this. So as I complete that here and I'm done, you'll notice that there's not a big green stamp or a big blue stamp that says, hey, I am done with this inventory count. That is on me to then go and inform my warehouse manager that I am done counting and that they can go in and reconcile these counts that I have completed. Now, to the question that we received earlier about bin count tasks, what I can do as a manager or from this mobile side is I can add a bin count task. Now, to that, I can do the same thing here on handhelds that I could do for the server side. However, the big thing here is if I am divvying out the same count tasks, so in this case here, if I did a supplier here of Red Bull, and I want to divvy that up into, we'll say 3 counts because Red Bull I'm holding in higher product counts and higher SKU counts than that of maybe Fever Tree. What I can do here is I can again divide those total counts out, and I can even assign those out to somebody like Barry here. Now, when I hit add bin count task and assign that to Barry, it means all 3 of these are going to be assigned to Barry at first. Somebody on the server side is still going to have to go in and assign these out to other individuals if we are dividing these out to other people to be going and counting as well. That cannot be done here on the mobile side, unfortunately.
All right. And another question from the chat. Can I, as an admin, automatically create bin count tasks by loading into the bin count tasks table each week?
So automatically loading into the bin count task table each week. I'm assuming what we're implying is like doing an import of some sort for bin count tasks. Um, like on any table in Encompass, you can do imports, but they tend to be more complicated, especially because these are dealing over multiple tables. Now, if you want to schedule bin count tasks or work on scheduling cycle counts or other things, there are different bin reports in Encompass you can use to see and view when products were last counted.
So
And if
something
that
like bin inventory report where we can generate those count tasks, for example, might be a little bit faster than doing an import, a little bit more easy.
correct, and if that doesn't answer your question, feel free to let me know, and I'm sure we can get that addressed. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and generate these bin count tasks. I don't actually have to count Red Bull, but I did want to show that off. So now that I'm done with all of my count tasks, I'm going to go ahead and move back to the server to reconcile these counts. All right. So as we move over to reconcile these counts here, we are going to see that we still have these assigned bin counts out, and I have this option here to reconcile. When I click on reconcile, you'll notice that I have multiple bin count tasks that are completed because I did one before we jumped on, and then we also have the two others that we just completed. So instead of me going through and trying to reconcile these one at a time, what I can do is I can go ahead and grab all three of these and reconcile those just all in one fell swoop. If I did want to go through and maybe had multiple large adjustments that I wanted to kind of investigate and double check first, I can go ahead and still select one at a time and be okay there. But in this case here, I'm going to go ahead and just grab one big count and grab all of them. When I select all three, it's just going to populate me on the errors here. There was only one count that was different, and it's only going to be for this option here. Now, the reasons that we see populate here are going to be based on our return rules and those reason codes that we have, which is a whole separate conversation about making sure that we make sure that those are mapped to the correct adjustment customers. So that way, when they hit those rules, we're writing off these inventory counts to those right customers and those right accounts. However, the big one here is if I had multiple reasons to pull from, I could go ahead and do so here. In this case here, I have my adjustments. I'm going to go ahead and adjust all to the recall version. And you'll notice that when I do so, that -1 removes that error of 1 there, which was outstanding. And that's going to shore up my inventory to 26. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to go ahead and save. And this is where I'm going to go ahead and write out based off that inventory adjustment. If you don't have inventory adjustment routes showing up for you, then that would again be investigating your routes and making sure that we have the right route type set up to make sure that those routes are populating there for you. We did our inventory count today, which is the 19th. So we're going to go ahead and generate that out. I have this memo portion here. So I can go ahead and write that inventory adjustment memo, the date, or any other details I want to include here. Once I'm happy with that, I can go ahead and generate that inventory adjustment. And this is, again, to point out, creating a load sheet. So, like everything else, bringing it back to what Kelly talked about earlier, it's important that we're not moving any sort of inventory around. We're not returning a bunch of trucks because that's going to, again, screw up with this inventory process until I'm done moving and counting all of my inventory. If I want, I can go ahead and review this right off load sheet, and it's going to bring me here, and it's going to bring that one case in and write that off based off of my inventory adjustment and those rules. It starts out in that balance status. So again, important notes to take away is that because I'm writing this off in the balance status, if I need to go through and make changes to this count or count this in, maybe I found that other case, I would have to go back through and generate another inventory count, as this one has already gone through the entire adjustment process. Bringing it back, we're going to go ahead and move back over from this demo, and we're going to talk a little bit about legacy counting. So we know we have some customers out there who, before non-WMS inventory counts uh, were available to us, they were doing that through load sheet structures. So you'll notice that we just had a load sheet created with an inventory adjustment on there. That is almost entirely how legacy counting works. It's through that load sheet structure, generating it. It is not the preferred or recommended way of doing non-WMS inventory counts in Encompass. However, you can download those load sheets for offline use. You can create them again from desktop and mobile. But some things to point out is that it's easy to have accidental crossover for counting. You can have duplicate tasks. It's not very clear and it's not very structured. And then outside of that, each adjustment reason you have to put in every single time that you're doing an account with any sort of adjustment. And we want to make sure that when we are documenting that, those are hitting those right adjustment customers and those right adjustment reasons, which is harder to do if we're doing it entirely from the load sheet versus reconciling that through those bin count tasks. If we compare that to the non-WMS counting, it uses the same count task structure that we just walked through. It is that preferred method by Encompass. It supports offline use. So we do cache your counts. So if you do run out of Wi-Fi, if you lose connectivity, the internet goes out, which does happen, we're going to cache those counts. So that way, when you do go back in or you reconnect, we can bring those counts over. You can still print those sheets out, as we talked about, through the web page, and you can do those counts on paper and then enter those counts on the desktop. And you can split those product lists for better labor management. So dividing those counts out, making sure that we're turning around and hitting those return rules and those adjustment customers once, and then automatically every single time instead of having to do it for each individual count. And as Kelly said, the last thing we're going to do on that agenda is evaluate. When are we ready for WMS? So first part of that is going to be bin inventories. So we want to track the same SKU across multiple bin locations in the warehouse. So I have a large warehouse. We're tracking it through, our backstock, our cold pull, our dunnage, and our breakage zones and our repack zones. So we have multiple bin inventory locations that we want to have that sort of granular look. Secondly, we have that date and batch tracking. So this is, we move over to WMS because I want to track date and batch codes, bin lots, those sorts of things across multiple bins and bin inventories. If I need that sort of granularity, or if I'm looking for that sort of granularity, I'm ready for that kind of complexity, then that might be a good time to start evaluating if you're ready for WMS. And lastly, the big thing that we tend to put out there is going to be that high SKU count. So if you have over 1,000 unique SKUs, WMS may help manage that high complexity, the amount of products you need for those sorts of bin counts and bin count tasks, but also just for being able to manage your inventory as a whole, WMS might be the call for you if you're getting up to those sort of high SKU counts. And with that, we have plenty of time. I will go ahead and open the floor up for any additional questions.
We don't have anything additional that has come through yet, but if you're typing out a question, don't worry. We will slow roll our closeout here. I'm going to start by thanking Nick and Kelly for your time today. This was really helpful. And all of our attendees for joining us in this session. If you have any additional questions, remember that Bev is always there and ready to help. We have a number of resources about WMS and non-WMS count tasks, as well as things like performing a cycle count and end of year type of reconciliation. I can see how when you have 1,000 items generated on that inventory count load sheet, if you're using that older method, that man, that could get unwieldy at a certain point. So leveraging these count tasks can honestly be a real sanity saver. And we do recommend doing these type of cycle counts on whatever cadence makes the most sense. We may only be performing that kind of, major count, full inventory count once or twice a year to make sure that those things get reconciled. But we can't sell product that we don't have. So if we can find those cases, if we can count them in, makes a big difference on everybody's agenda, all the way out from sales being able to make promises that they can keep in terms of what they're selling, to the accounting side of what do we need to write off and what's our product loss for the year or in this instance. So counting is an essential operation in every warehouse. All right, looks like my exposition has given somebody time to enter in a question. Question is, how can we see what a bin discrepancy may be coming from? If the system inventory on the pick bin is 27 and we counted 26 on the actual floor, how can we determine where the case went rather than just writing it off and adjusting it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, what I would typically recommend is running a bin inventories report or bin count report. So, we have a little bit of time. I will go ahead and demonstrate what that looks like here. So, to that, I'm going to go ahead and type in bin in that universal search. And down here under dashboards here, you're going to see this warehouse inventory bins report. When I go to this report here, this is going to allow me to target specific products or specific bins to see what that inventory is. For example, we were looking at Fever Tree was the count that we were looking at. When I go ahead and create this report here, what that's going to do is it's going to show me all of the livable places that this product is. Now, a big thing to keep in mind is that based on my permissions, I have all of the locations in here. So if I'm targeting a specific location, it may be helpful for me to go ahead and grab that Gehring location that we were counting out of and go ahead and run that report again so I can remove all that extra noise. From here, I can investigate if that product is living anywhere else. If I'm not seeing that product living anywhere else, then chances are that our inventory saying 27 can come from a handful of places. And at that point, I would have to start investigating specific bin audits. In this case here, we're looking at this product here, which was that classic Marg mix that was counted short. And I can go ahead and look at this and see, has it been invoiced to anybody? Did maybe somebody else go and grab that by accident and deliver to the wrong customer? Have we had any complaints that we received the wrong product or mixed that up? Unfortunately, there's not going to be a clean way on non-WMS for me to track exactly when that product was scanned out, scanned in. We don't have that sort of granularity outside of that. However, again, if we're trying to do some further investigating, this is the first place that I would personally start.
So if that is something that people needed, is that level of control, is that something that we would see in WMS counting?
Correct. And I believe we had a comment in there, is that the bin audit will give you the bin trans of the product in and out of a bin, which is exactly what you would use for that. Uh, you would use that in order to track that between to make sure that you follow when product has moved in or out. Has it been touched? Did we have something that we recently sold that product and maybe they grabbed an extra case and we just didn't document that. So really it comes down to doing a little bit of a deeper investigation and using tools like warehouse inventory bins or a bin audit in order to kind of see what is moving in and out for specific products and specific bins.
All right. Well, I don't see any other questions that have come through the chat. So if you do have anything else, please, contact support, reach out to us here at beved@encompass8.com. We are going to be posting a survey after this session. So if you have any feedback on what you'd like to see in the future, we're starting to plan for our fall round of skills kickstarts. If you did want to see something on cycle counts specifically, if you are looking to move into that next tier, know that we have some recordings available for you to reference as well. But thanks everybody for your time, and we hope you have a great rest of the day.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you guys.